In this video, we're going to be looking at the 5 reasons why you're getting junctions wrong. No fluff, just good stuff. And yes, we're going to be looking at the MSPSL routine. MSPSL routine is incredibly important for learner drivers to understand their process when they're approaching junctions. It's incredibly important for people that are teaching people to drive. So any PDIs out there, do pay attention to what this routine is. And if you don't know this routine yet, how are you going to guide or prompt somebody through their process? For you, the learner drivers, I'm going to give you the 5 reasons why you're messing up junctions. Number 1, mirrors. If you're not checking your mirrors properly, then the likelihood of something going wrong as you're approaching the junction is just way too high. So you must be checking mirrors. What you see in the mirrors is going to directly impact how you approach a junction. If I am going to be turning left and I see something coming up on my left-hand side, I want to know that. If I'm about to turn right and I see something coming up on my right-hand side, I also want to know that.
So the mirrors that you would be checking if you're turning right would be the center mirror and then the right mirror. You check the center mirror before you slow down and the right mirror to see if there's anyone coming up on the right-hand side.
Center mirror, right mirror indicate right.
And likewise, if I'm turning left, it's exactly the same. I check the center mirror before I slow down and the left mirror to see if there's anyone coming up on the left-hand side.
So I check my center mirror, my left mirror.
You must understand though, what you see in the mirrors has a direct impact on how we respond. So make sure you're seeing when you look.
Now, if you're really interested in mirrors, I have done a video on this. So there's a card up here right now, which will take you to a video, which is all the mirror work that you need to be doing for your driving test and also for safe driving for life. Mirrors. Mirrors are your first line of defense. Awareness. Let's be aware, people. The second reason why people mess up junctions is they're not communicating properly. They're not using their signals in the correct way. Now, if I'm going to be turning right, I clearly am going to be signaling right. If I'm going to be turning left, I'm going to be signaling left. That, I'm sure, is pretty much self-explanatory. But the timing of these signals is also fundamental. If you're getting the timing wrong, well, then you're not giving people enough time to respond to what your actions are. Couple that with, for example, bad awareness, going back to mirrors, you now have a bigger problem. So the mirrors is your first line of defense. Your signal is the second line of defense.
What this breaks down to ultimately is signal too early, and that's confusing. Signal too late, well, that's dangerous. Signal in good time.
The third reason why you're messing up on junctions is you're not positioning properly. To understand positioning, you also have to understand your signals. Now, your signals are telling people your intention to do something. So if I'm signaling right, I'm going to be telling the people behind me and the people in front of me that I want to turn right. But your positioning is also going to be confirming that. Do you trust what people say or what people do? I'm going to give you a little pause there for you to think about that for a second. But ultimately, yes, we trust what people do. I almost said say there for a second. We trust what people do rather than what people are saying. So yes, I need to say what I'm going to do, and I now need to back it up with the correct positioning on the approach to a junction.
Although throughout this video I constantly demonstrate positioning, let's just make sure it's incredibly clear. When turning left, you maintain a normal driving position, which means my position doesn't change. When I'm turning right, my positioning will move to the right-hand side of my lane. This clearly tells people behind what my intentions are. This is very important.
In fact, that might be a video all in itself. If you're interested in that video and you want to see something a bit more about positioning on the road, then again, hit me up in the comments. Speed is the other thing that people are getting fundamentally wrong when they're approaching junctions. If your speed is not correct, then you are going to stumble and you are going to fall. You are going to make mistakes. Experienced drivers tend to do things a little bit too quickly. So if you've been watching mum and dad or anybody else out there approaching junctions and you've ever felt uncomfortable in the car, it could be one of the mirrors or the signal, it could be positioning. But do look at speed, because if the speed is wrong, then it's going to feel wrong, it's going to be dangerous. So we've got to get the speed right. If I'm approaching a give-way line, I want to be able to keep moving if the way's clear, but it must be slow enough that I can stop effectively without a harsh stop.
Speed is covered quite extensively in this video because As you guessed it, it's very important.
The number one reason why people fail their driving tests is observation. So which is the fifth one, the observation that you're doing on the junction. Now this in itself could be an entire video. And again, if you want to see a video on that, hit me in the comments and I will do a video on the observation and how to judge when it's safe to go. But for today, we're just looking at these main reasons and I will give you some factors that were going to help you out within that. When it comes to observations at junctions, you have to take your time. You've got to be ready to go. You've got to be doing the correct observation. You've got to be looking in the correct places. But if it's too risky, you shouldn't be going. We now also have to factor in a few other things like pedestrian priority. So there's a few things that we need to be taking care of when it comes to observations at junctions. But if we just rewind back a second, back to the speed bit, it could be that the speed is creating the problem as to why you can't do the correct observation at the junction. If you get any value from the video, obviously hit the like button because it really does help the channel to grow. I really do appreciate all the support, all of you out there that watch my videos and hit that like button and have subscribed. Thank you so much, I do appreciate it. So putting it all together is pretty simple, really. Ultimately, I'm going to be turning right at this junction up here. So if I put it all together, that would simply be check my mirrors and I can see that there's a vehicle behind, but quite some distance back. I'm going to time my signal now, so I think that's an appropriate time to put my signal on for certainly the speed I'm traveling. My positioning is going to be just left of the center of this line here, and I'm going to start slowing the car down to a speed that I feel that I can now continue the emerge without rushing. Looking right, looking left, looking right, looking left, looking right, looking left. Now I'm able to do that, I call that a rolling emerge, because it's a give-way line. Now, there might be a little brief interlude in this video where I describe the differences between a give-way line and a stop line. So I'll see you back in a second.
A give-way line is simple. It ultimately means you don't have priority, and you can recognize it through the sign, the lines, and also this reverse triangle that you can see on the road. A give-way line is distinctive by the fact that it's a broken white line, and it's a double broken white line on the left, and on the right hand side there's a single broken white line where traffic would enter the junction from. If the double broken white lines cross the entire mouth of the junction, then that's a one-way road. A give-way line also means you don't have to come to a stop. Provided you do effective observation, you could keep the car moving. A stop line, on the other hand, has very different rules. You must come to a stop. Failure to do so on your driving test would result in a serious fault. And that's because it's against the law to keep moving.
I'm going to be taking the second road on the right. So there's the first. So I'm going to check my center mirror and my right mirror. There's nothing going on behind me. I'm going to signal right, and again, I'm going to position to the middle of my lane, just left of this center white line here. And I'm approaching the junction. Going to line up my wing mirror there, which I've done a video on. I'll put a card up here if you want to go check that out, about right turns. And then I enter the new road, so new road, new mirrors. At the end of this road here, I'm going to turn left, so I check my center mirror, my left mirror. I'm going to signal left. I'm going to start slowing the car down, and I'm going to be looking on the junction, looking right, looking left, looking right, looking left, looking right, looking left, emerging, still rolling, looking right, looking left, and I enter the junction. New road, new mirrors.
The beady-eyed of you will have noticed that I didn't mention the word positioning, and that's because when you're turning left, you maintain a normal driving position, which means it doesn't change. If you'd like a bit more information on normal driving position, I'll stick a card up here in the top right-hand corner. Feel free to go and have a look.
Now, I'm not going to go too much into mirrors, but we've talked about that as being one of the main reasons why people mess up on junctions. Could be mirrors. They're not aware of what's going on. I'm going to continue to check my mirrors and tell you what's going on behind me. The timing of your signal is when you want to start your routine. At the end of this road, I'm going to turn left. So again, I'm going to check my mirrors. There's nothing behind me. This speed, the fact there's no one about, doesn't matter too much about when I put my signal on.
Oh, wait a minute. I think that might need a little bit of an explanation. Just say that again one more time.
This speed, the fact there's no one about, doesn't matter too much about when I put my signal on.
What I mean by that is ultimately your signals are dependent on who's around you. If there's no one to benefit, it doesn't matter so much. But if we were to put a rough number on it, approximately below 30 miles an hour, you would normally apply your signals somewhere between 6 and 8 car lengths from the junction. This would give ample time for anyone else around you to understand what your intentions are. Back to you in the car.
And again, I'm going to slow the car down and I'm going to come to the junction and I'm looking right, looking left, looking right, looking left. All really important, but quite basic when it comes to driving in roads like this. It's not challenging. The reasons for checking the mirrors seem less important, and you're probably correct. I'm not saying you shouldn't check them.
Definitely not suggesting that.
But it seems less important because there's less activity, there's less going on. So in order for this to make sense, I've kind of got to take this out onto more real world situations. But before I do that, I want to pay attention to specifically the speed and how I'm controlling that, because the speed and the look are probably the two biggest reasons why people mess up on the junctions. So I've given you 5, but those 2 are fundamental.
Now, before going into the speed bit, I think it's important just to recap a little bit on positioning, because it just doesn't feature so much in this video. And that's because I've done 2 other videos on this particular subject, which I'll be linking at the end. As I said before, if you're turning left, you maintain a normal driving position, which means my positioning doesn't change. And if I'm turning right, my positioning will move to the right-hand side of my lane, as seen here, which is the correct position for turning right. More on that in the other videos.
Now, if I'm doing an approaching right, speed we're talking about here, that kind of junction there, I'm going to be wanting to do somewhere probably between 5 and 10 as I'm coming around the junction, because I can't see into it and I start turning. I'm actually doing 6 miles an hour. So if you are struggling with speed in second gear, turning right, or you could be driving an auto, let's get the speed down to around somewhere between 5 and 10 miles an hour. I'm going to take this next road on the left here, center mirror, left mirror, signal left, and again, speed, get my speed down, about 5 miles an hour. And again, it's really tight in this road, so I'm going even slower. And I thought I saw a reflection. I did see a reflection. So I just took my time. Talking about defensive driving, that was me being defensive. But again, speed is a factor in making it safe. If you're rushing into junctions, you are going to have problems. And I always feel speed has to be highlighted, because I say it all the time. If you get your speed right, you can judge it properly. If you get your speed right, you wouldn't have rushed it. So speed and braking. So what's actually happening with my pedals? At the end of this road here, going to turn left, so center mirror, left mirror. With a manual car, I'm braking, and then my clutch goes down, and I'm going to continue the brake till the car can then continue to roll forwards. However, there is a pedestrian, so I'm going to let this pedestrian go. That's quite important. That's also part of it. If I'm rushing it, I would have missed that.
And as I was unable to demonstrate that properly, let's just go through that again. If you want to give yourself the opportunity to keep moving, and to be fair, it is literally just the opportunity, the sort of speed that you would need in order to keep moving on a junction like this would be somewhere between 1 and 3 miles an hour. Because this junction is closed, as in you can't see right or left on the approach, you should anticipate that you would need to bring the car to a stop. But if you get the braking right by slowing the car right down, so you're doing no more than 1 or 2 miles an hour as you approach, you now have the opportunity to keep moving if the way is clear. Now let's put this all together in more real world situations. Well, for London anyway.
I'm going to take this next road on the right here. Center mirror, right mirror, indicate right. I position just left of the center white line. I'm looking up the road, it's looking clear. I'm looking into the junction, it's clear. So I'm turning. My speed is around 7 miles an hour. There is no coincidence that that is the speed. I'm doing this defensively, I'm not rushing. End of the road, I'm going to turn right. Check my center mirror, my right mirror, I'm going to indicate right. Now I'm approaching a giveaway line, my speed will be different. It'll be somewhere between 1 and 2. 1 and 3. So again, I'm slowing the car right down. My speed now is somewhere between 1 and 2, looking right, looking left, looking right, looking left. My car continues to roll, doing the effective observation as I come to the junction. And then I enter the new road, new mirrors. Now I'm going to do the look bit. Looking is also probably, if you get your speed right, you've now got to get your looking right. I can get across that gap. Now, this junction down here is quite difficult. It's difficult because the view is completely blocked. Is this bus? Could that bus driver have possibly waited for me to come through first? Not quite sure why this bus driver has come down this road. This road is not built for buses. What people get wrong with the looking part is they're looking, for example, in the wrong direction when they're turning, or they're just not doing effective observation. So first of all, effective observation would be, I'm coming to this junction, my visibility is bad. As I come to the junction, I can't see through the vehicles, I can't see through here. I'm going to creep really slowly forwards, looking both directions, very quickly, sort of rapid and leaning forwards to get a good view. I can see it's now completely clear, I can go. Now, one mistake that people make is they're looking right when they're turning left. And what I mean by that is as they're actually emerging into the junction, they're so focused on what could be coming from their right-hand side, which is where the immediate danger is coming from, they're not paying attention to actually where they're positioned in the road. It's so important that you're positioned properly, and you've got to assess that with rapid observation, or failure to do that would ultimately mean you could be in the path of an oncoming vehicle, and that's definitely not good. We don't want to be doing that. At the end of this road here, I'm going to turn left. Now, what that translates to is I do my mirrors, I do my signal. My positioning is on a road like this is not as important, but it will change slightly as I come to the mouth of the junction. My speed is low. I'm now looking right, looking left, looking right, looking left. Now I've done 2, 3 sets, 4 sets, and I'm now looking where I'm going before I've crossed the give way line. Now it could be possible that I've done a little bit more than I needed to do there, but I'm just giving you the demonstration of what should be possible. Before I've crossed that give way line, I must have assessed both sides and be looking the direction I am traveling. If you're not doing that, you will be looking in the wrong direction and you will go all over the place. You will make mistakes looking. Now, one of the other key factors when it comes to looking is the judgment, judging a safe gap. I always say, if it's borderline, don't do it. When you're a learner driver, you will go through various stages of control. When you're near the beginning, you can't be expected to take a gap that an experienced driver would be able to take, simply because you just don't have that level of control. If I use the rule that we use to know it's safe to cross the path of an oncoming vehicle, which is generally by all instructors is called the walking rule, if I can walk it, I can drive it. Well, that doesn't quite match up when you're learning to drive. If you're near the earlier stages, what I would say is, let's say walking with a limp. So if I can walk with a limp across that road without interfering with a vehicle, then that's probably a gap I could possibly take. If you try and take just a general walking rule situation, which is quite close to the wire, the likelihood that you're going to get that wrong is way too high. So we don't want to be doing that. Now, if you're driving an automatic, because so many of you out there now are driving automatics, it's going to be less of an issue when it comes to judging that gap, because you're not so concerned about stalling the vehicle, which a manual learner or manual driver would be, because the clutch is definitely going to play a factor. So if it's borderline, don't do it. Let's just keep it simple.
Now, earlier you may have noticed that I took a gap that an experienced driver could easily take. If you're a learner driver, this may not have been a gap you should have, and it's right here. This is not necessarily borderline, but if you're walking with a limp, that would have been a lot closer. Especially if you're near the beginning of your training. Don't feel pressured to take gaps you don't feel comfortable with.
Okay, so I'm going to turn right into this road here. It's on a hill. So I'm going to check my mirrors, I'm going to signal. The road, I can see the width of the road, I can see where the line is, so I'm now going to position my vehicle to the right. Now you can see the taxi behind me is now moving to my left because it wants to keep moving. It allows that vehicle to pass me, and then I enter this new road, new mirrors. Again, my speed, I was in first gear because I'm on a hill at 7 miles an hour. Enter the new road, new mirrors. New road, new mirrors is not part of the MSPSL routine. It's not written anywhere into that routine, but it's definitely something you want to be doing. I want to know what's behind me before I accelerate. The MSPSL routine is also used across all kind of complex junctions. It's not just going to be the simple basic ones. You can also use it and will be using it on large complex roundabouts. If you'd like to see a video on that, then obviously hit me in the comments and I'll do a video using the MSPSL routine on those kind of junctions. If you would like to understand a bit more about how to position properly when turning right, well, that video is over here. And if you are struggling with your left turns and you're struggling to judge how to make a left turn and it's going too wide, well, that video is over here. I'll see you in one of those videos. For now, get well out.